Okay, I built my first top bar hive body using the plans that I downloaded from my friends at Be Mindful, and I'll have a link in the comments to that. But being as I'm not a great carpenter, I had some trouble cutting this piece right here, so I'm going to show you how to do it after I talked to Natalie at Be Mindful, and she gave me some tips, and she even let me borrow her template. So I'm going to show how to cut this part so that you don't waste a lot of wood like I did, making a bunch of things that looked like they were pretty close, but weren't actually right. Here what we're going to do, we've got a 8-foot piece of 2x10, and we're just going to make the first cut so it's at an angle. And then we're going to flip the wood over and use this template to know where to make the second cut. The first cut doesn't really matter where it is, depending on how much wood you want to waste, but I wanted both parts of the wood to be touching the fence so I would know it was square. All right, so one of the mistakes I was making last time was I was flipping my saw around to make the second cut, and Natalie said, no, you just flip the wood around, always keep the saw in the same position. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, and now I have this template that Natalie gave me, so I know exactly how big to do it. Now when you're doing it, what you want to do is measure this part. It should be 9 1/4, because this 9 1/4 has got to match the 9 1/4 of the bottom of the hive that it's mated up against. So this seam right here between your trapezoid and the bottom part of the hive, this seam here is 9 1/4 inches wide. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to mark it with a pencil, because I don't want to accidentally shave off a piece of Natalie's template that she loaned to me. And you may well ask, well, Darren, why don't you just measure 9 1/4? Why do you need a template? You know what? Because I wasted a lot of wood trying to do it without a template, that's why. I'm going to be on the left side of this line with my blade. Right about there. See that? Blade's on the left side of the line, which is going to leave me 9 1/4 right here. And that's the measurement that matters. One of my mistakes was I was trying to measure, use this as my reference, which was a mistake. This width here doesn't really matter. This width matters because it's the part that interfaces with the bottom of the hive. Make sure that's snug up against the fence. And I'm turning my vacuum because I forgot to do that last time. There we go. And now I've got the end piece for my next hive. And also, I can make an extra one of these and use it as a divider if I wanted to divide this hive into 2 colonies, or if I want to start the bees out in a nice little space that's comfortable for them, and then I want to move this over time as the bees grow their colony. I can do that. Now I'm going to make my next cut for the other side. Let's see if this works. So I'm keeping that angle from the previous cut. I'm gonna slide this over, and now I want my blade to be on the right side of the pencil line. That's right. Turn on the vacuum. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is cut the bottom board for my second Hive body. The bottom board is this part right here. It's 47 inches long, 9 1/4 inches wide. If you buy a 2x10, it's actually 9 1/4 inches wide. And this has got an angle here at the bottom, 30 degrees, so that it will match this right here. So I've got two side pieces already cut. These are both 2x10s cut at 47 inches. So these will be the sides for my second hive. See that? And you don't have to do any weird crazy cuts, no angles. It's just a straight cut because this is a really simple design from the folks at Be Mindful. So I'm going to cut this to 47 inches to be the bottom. I'll cut it to 47 inches in length, and then I'm going to run it through my table saw to give it the 30-degree angles on either side. This way, it's okay for too far that way because you want to make another pass. Hey, that looks right, doesn't it? It looks good. So now we know the fence is in the right place. All we got to do is turn this board around and make the second cut. All right, so there's the bottom board. We made both cuts. And we're setting down the bottom board, the wide part on the small part. All right, see how that is? Bottom board, one end piece, that's cut at 30 degrees, that's cut at 30 degrees, so you got one continuous, I mean, if you're a better carpenter than me, you have one continuous surface here. Okay, I'm going to mark where I want to put my screws and drill the pilot holes using another piece of wood as my reference. All right, so I know that I want my screws to go somewhere in this space because that means they will be somewhere in this space. So center here means it's somewhere in the center there. And then we're not going to get splitting or anything weird. All right. I'm using these 3.5-inch deck screws. because they're what I had in the workshop. These might be a little long, but that's okay. You can see I got a warped piece of wood sticking over here. But you know what? The bees don't care. We're not building a cabinet here. Building a cozy place for the bees to live. Then we have our hive body assembled without the sides. And to put the sides on, basically you need a partner to hold this in place while you screw it on, or you need to do what Natalie showed me how to do, and that's put a couple of screws here to hold the sideboard in place while you attach it. So that's what I'm going to do. So what we're going to do is follow the instructions from the directions I got on Be Mindful. This blue line shows that it's 21 centimeters, which is 8 1/4 inches from this point to where you want to put your helper screw. This is actually, look at it like this. So there's the point there that you're measuring from. And you want to measure 8 1/4 inches down, and that's where you put your helper screw. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to measure 8 1/4 inches down. Not from the top here, folks, because guess what? I made that mistake, and that's not right. No, you measure it from here. This little gap right there. 8 1/4 inches down. Let's see where that puts us. 8 1/4 puts us right. Measure it this way, it's easier. 8 1/4 puts us right there. All right, here we go. So now we've got a helper screw, 8 1/4 inches from there to the helper screw, 8 1/4. Let's put on that sideboard and see if it's in the right spot. Hey, hey, as Fonzie would say, look at that. Thanks to the helper screws. Now I already marked where I'm going to put my 2 screws. I'm going to go ahead and push those on home. That looks right. All right, now we do the same thing on the other side. And we're going to be done with the basic hive body. We're going to remove the helper screws. Thanks for your help, helper screw. Don't need you anymore. Thank you, helper screw. Always thank your helper screws. Keeps them motivated. Folks, now we have a basic hive body assembled. 2 sides, a bottom, and an end on each end. Let's flip it right side up. See what it looks like. Hey, how you like them apples, huh? And now we'll see if the hive bars just fit right in there. Slick as you please. My friend Natalie over at Be Mindful gave me these 2 hive bars just as a reference. This is her design for the little nubbin where the bees can attach their honeycomb. A lot of different styles of things that you can put on the bottom of the top bar for the bees to attach their comb to. This is the one that Natalie landed on after a lot of trial and error, so I'm tending to trust the idea that One that's not too pointy, one that doesn't stick out too far is probably the right way to go. This is another thing that Natalie designed, which is a place to attach your comb. So say you're rescuing a colony of bees that in somebody's attic or someplace they shouldn't be. You cut out the comb and you want to put it here in your top bar hive. Well, you can just press the comb right on there, hang it, set it down, and now bam, you've got the colony with the same comb that they already built and they're comfortable with, and they're in a new happy home. So these are two really cool ideas that I appreciate that Natalie shared these with me. So now all that's left to do on this is I need to make enough top bars to fill this whole thing up, and I need to build legs for it. And I had initially thought I was going to do something fancy with the legs, but I think for, at least for this first one, I'm just going to follow Natalie's design from BeMindful.com and make it super simple. So next is the legs. That's what I'm going for right there, folks. So two super simple legs. I think these are also 30-degree cuts, if I'm not mistaken. I've got to look at the plan. So next I will find some lumber somewhere that I can use for legs, and I will make the legs, and then we'll set this up and see what it looks like standing on its own. Go. Got the old saw set at 30 degrees there. I'm going to cut off a little end piece. So I measured 40 inches from the longest part here, leaving the saw set up exactly like it was. All right, now I have 4 legs, and I was just using scrap wood, so the ones on this side are going to be a little bit wider than the ones on this side. That's okay, because as long as they're the same length, then the hive will be straight. So that's good. Let's go ahead and attach these legs to the hive body. All right, so if you're following this design from Be Mindful and you're attaching the legs, it looks like the main point of reference for attaching these legs is the center point at the top of the hive. So this is the top of the hive here. We'll find the center point, and the tops of the legs should touch right at that center point. So let's see what we're talking about here. 20 inches in punto. So 10 is the center. I'm going to mark it on top too. So I take this leg. Do it from this side so you can see better, and just align the top of the leg with the top of this end here. Then that should be about right, and all you got to do is screw it in. I'm going to attach it to the end piece and also the sideboard here. So I think I'll drill a couple of pilot holes, and then we'll do it. It's nice to see everything in place before you start drilling and screwing, because after you drill and screw, if you realize you made a mistake, it's a little harder to undo. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna clamp that leg in place, and then I'll find the other leg. I'll clamp that leg in place. Okay. Now, I'm just gonna get a square and make sure that's all flush, but that's looks about right. You know what? Look at that. My 3.5-inch screws have finally met their fate, because that's too long. Let's find, we need like 2.5, 2 3/4, maybe 3-inch screws. Okay, so I'm using 3-inch screws for this. 3 inches because I don't want it to poke through into the hive. So that looks about right. All right, got my screws in. Time to release. Set this down. So there is a top bar hive with 2 legs. So if you want a slanted beehive, go ahead and leave the other 2 legs off. I don't recommend that. And we'll attach the other 2 legs after marking the center point, which is 10 inches. Okay, I got all 4 legs on. Let's flip this up, see how wobbly it is. Bam. Look at that. It's actually not wobbly at all. That is awesome. So there's your basic hive body for a top bar hive. See what it looks like with a couple of bars in there. This is cool. I cannot wait to finish this. All I gotta do is make the rest of the top bars. All right, I need to make some top bars. Fill this up. So I'm gonna start cutting, and I'm going to use this scrap piece of wood that I goofed up. And I'm gonna slice this into 1 3/8 inch strips, because the width of the top bars, according to this design, bars 1 3/8 of an inch. That's in red because I think that means that it applies to most North American honeybees, but your mileage may vary. So I will set the saw up for 1 3/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to use one of these bars that Natalie gave me to set my fence. Fence is set. And now I will run this through as many times as I can